Today on Hearts of Heroes, a mudslide sweeps through a California city.
Once a mudslide starts, they're just going to build and build and build and then take out an entire community.
Leaving 2 horses trapped neck deep in thick sludge.
They had exhaustion, they've had hypothermia going on.
Then you're like, this isn't good. How are we going to get this animal out?
Plus, a 5-alarm fire threatens to destroy an historic downtown.
We all kind of just sat here and watched it burn. It was very traumatic.
These first responders demonstrate that ingenuity and quick thinking can make all the difference.
In 2020, the river fire burned a large area in and around Salinas, California. The community survived, but that scorched earth left the area vulnerable to another disaster, mudslides.
The following winter, when heavy rain fell, first responders faced a rescue unlike any they had ever experienced.
The mudslides happened sometime around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Homes were pushed off their foundation, vehicles were covered in mud, roads were washed away.
One of the property owners said 2 of their horses were stuck in the mud.
I'm expecting a horse stuck a leg deep, maybe, but I'm not expecting them to be neck deep, 6 feet underground.
These horses are hypothermic, and we thought this was going to be a poor ending to the situation.
Picturesque Salinas, California is the most populous city in Monterey County. It also served as the inspiration for many of author John Steinbeck's great American novels.
Salinas is predominantly a farming community, so a lot of flatlands. They have a mountain ridge that breaks them up from the coastal areas, so just a lot of open land with agriculture.
In 2020, the landscape was drastically altered by a major wildfire that burned close to 48,000 acres.
When a fire comes through that area, it'll burn everything. But what you don't see is the root system's gone as well. And that's what really holds the mud and rocks up on the hillsides.
And that makes the area susceptible to mudslides if heavy rains come in.
In January of 2021, heavy rains were predicted. Monterey County called in strike teams, special units ready to go in case a disaster hits.
There was a big storm coming, so they sent our engine along with 4 others from Fremont, Oakland, and Alameda County. Basically, we were there for the storm and whatever was going to happen with it.
On the second night, at 3:30 in the morning, a series of mountain mudslides began their assault on the city below.
Homes were pushed off their foundation, vehicles were covered in mud, roads were washed away, bridges were washed away. It was just devastating.
Once a mudslide starts, they're just going to continue in force and build and build and build and then take out an entire community, which it did.
When the mudslide slowed, rescue workers went out to assess the damage.
We were just driving around patrolling, and we came by a house. They flagged us down.
One of the property owners approached the engine. They said 2 horses were stuck in the mud, a miniature horse and a full-size horse. We jumped off the rig, went and checked out where they were at, and kind of quickly realized we're going to need a lot more than just our crew.
Then we called for all the other resources to come help.
Look at this.
It was pretty surreal to see 2 horses totally engulfed by mud. I was surprised that they were alive given the gravity of how far they were buried, just because of the pressure and weight.
They had exhaustion, they probably had hypothermia going on because they were there all night in the mud with the cold and the lack of water.
We started to grab some shovels off the rig, other tools, thinking we could just dig them out real quick, and quickly found out this mud was completely different than anything I've experienced. Closest thing to quicksand that I can think of.
It's total sludge. It's like peanut butter, basically. That's what we had. And so it was packed.
Every time we dug, the horse would get deeper. It was like a suction cup. Not to mention, we started getting buried to our knees, getting stuck, losing boots, trying to get them out.
Then you're like, this isn't good. How are we going to get this animal out?
We thought we were not going to be able to get him out, and this was going to be a poor ending to the situation.
Coming up.
With how cold that mud was and the air temperature, I think hypothermia would have ended up getting them.
And later, a fire erupts in an historic business district.
At one point, it seems like it exploded, and we were dealing with like 3 stories of fire.
But first, a tip should you ever encounter an animal in danger.
If there's an animal in danger, most people's first instinct is to jump in and help. But this can sometimes make the situation worse.
If you see an animal in distress, keep a safe distance and approach it with caution. Even animals that are regularly friendly can lash out when they feel threatened.
Play it safe by calling your local animal care center and let the professionals handle the situation from there.
In January of 2021, torrential rain triggered massive mudslides in Salinas, California. Firefighters were attempting to rescue 2 horses trapped neck deep in the mud, but they were fighting a losing battle.
You'd shovel some out and then more would come back in. It was almost like the hole was getting bigger because the water would fill in underneath it.
We knew that digging wasn't going to get these horses out alone.
The homeowner said, hey, my neighbor has a backhoe, and went and got him.
We're able to start digging with the backhoe. Now that creates other risks. It's not unlikely or unheard of to actually damage or injure the person that's in the hole, and in this case, a horse.
We don't want to injure the horse, break bones, those type of things, which would be a life ender for these horses.
With enough mud removed, rescuers now had to figure out how to safely pull these 1,000-pound animals out of the hole.
We needed to sling the horse. We needed to basically put a harness on the horse so that we could use the backhoe bucket as our lifting device.
We don't have straps that we can use to get the horse connected to the backhoe. So somebody came up with the idea of using our 3-inch hose, which is on all of our fire engines.
We were able to dig around the body and feel the body and get straps underneath the horse, so then we could attach it to the backhoe.
But the thick mud had created a powerful vacuum around the horse's legs, holding them in a vice-like grip.
When we started to lift, we realized how suctioned their legs were into the mud. We quickly realized digging and pulling is not going to work.
The owner said, hey, how about we take this water hose and squirt it around the legs. We didn't think that adding water to a mud slide situation was going to help, but it actually filled that void, and it kind of made it less sticky so we could get the horse out.
We began to hydrostatically remove the mud and debris from around the lower legs of the horse, and that was able to break the suction on its legs.
In conjunction with the backhoe and the hose that we had wrapped around and just using a little bit of hose water around his legs, that was how we ended up being able to get him out.
Rescuers safely extracted the pony first. By this time, SPCA of Monterey County arrived.
The pony was very wet and very cold, and obviously a little traumatized from the day. We got him warm and into a safe space where we could get him just to have a little bit of quiet time.
Meanwhile, firefighters turned their attention to rescuing the larger and heavier horse.
The location of the second horse is much closer to dry, stable land that they were using their shovels to dig a trench. So we could just turn him around and walk him out to dry land.
Once it started getting free, it picked its front 2 legs out first, and then the horse knew, hey, I'm moving in a positive space. I want to get out of here.
I was amazed that he was able to get up on his legs and stand up once he was freed up a little bit.
After being treated at the SPCA, both horses made a full recovery thanks to the heroic actions of all the agencies involved.
There was a huge breath of fresh air, just being thankful that we were all there to work together to make this happen. It's definitely no small feat getting over a 1,000-pound animal out of a suctioned mud pit.
We do a lot of random things in our line of work, but horse stuck in a mud isn't the top of the list.
It was pretty special. This once-in-a-career horse rescue, it's the reason you're in this business, really.
And the horses survived. I think it absolutely was a success.
Coming up, firefighters battle a huge inferno.
We were struggling. We were losing time. We were losing firefighters with the heat.
But first, another tip for all the pet owners out there.
Did you know that asphalt retains heat from the sun? So even if the outdoor temperature feels fine to us, the ground might be too hot for your pet's sensitive feet.
Conduct a temperature check by placing your hand on the pavement. If it's uncomfortable to you, it's too hot for your pet.
No one knows your pet better than you do. So keep an eye out for signs of stress or heat exhaustion. If they could speak, they'd thank you for it, but they can't. So I'll do it for them. Thank you.
Historic buildings can offer a glimpse into a town's past, but often their dry, time-worn walls are no match for a blazing, fast-moving fire.
Not long ago, a close-knit Michigan community watched as a famous city block went up in flames. But thanks to the fortitude of firefighters, this small town's history would be preserved.
This building was built in 1866. This is the original Main Street of Holly.
At one point, it seems like it exploded, and we were dealing with like 3 stories of fire.
We all kind of just sat here and watched it burn. There was nothing we could do, so it was very traumatic.
Holly, Michigan. It's a small village with a population of about 6,000. This close-knit community is a whole lot quieter than its big city neighbors like Flint and Detroit.
Holly's a historic town. We pride ourselves on our history.
The landmarks downtown, I can tell you stories from 100 years ago with my family. They're just important. They're sacred to us.
This building was built in 1866. This is the original Main Street of Holly.
The building stretches a city block, and it's home to 5 different businesses.
We have the Antique Arcade, and then heading due east, you have the hotel. Heading south from the hotel, you would have Andy's Place, and then the Moose Lodge, and then the bookstore.
Andrea, or Andy Chapman, opened her restaurant, Andy's Place, in 2013, along with her daughter, Sarah.
When I walked in and saw it, it reminded me of my mother's kitchen. So I wanted to embrace that memory of not only her, but also the good times that we had.
There was just an energy about this place. It was really a home for us. This is where everybody came to congregate and be a family.
Awesome burgers. I love that place.
They have bands and individual singers come with guitars. A lot of people hang out there. Wonderful place.
While the people of Holly consider Andy's Place a second home, the owner's literal home was right upstairs.
I made it into an apartment, and it was gorgeous. It was really beautiful.
Often, the features that make these historic buildings so unique also make them vulnerable to fire.
It's tightly packed. There's common walls, so all the buildings are built on top of one another. There is no fire stop between the first, second, or third floor. So once that fire breaches that wall, it's going to go up the wall spaces all the way to the roof deck. It is almost like a chimney.
On June 21st, 2022, firefighters would be forced to make a difficult decision in order to preserve this village's historic downtown.
We saw the smoke, and it was billowing, so we knew it was the real deal. I saw flames coming right out the back of Moose Lodge. Jumped off, grabbed a hose, and just ran down the alley and started going to work.
Our first engine had made contact and gained entry into the arcade. They breached the door, and once that door was opened, it created a very hot environment for our firefighters.
Once another team kicked the door open, it was like a jet engine. It just took off. You could hear it and see it move down the building, and that's when I knew it was going to be bad.
And within minutes, it flashed over. Once that building flashes over, it is now a defensive attack.
At one point, it seems like it exploded, and we were dealing with like 3 stories of fire.
Soon, surrounding fire departments arrived.
We had 19 fire departments, over 200 firefighters on scene. It was a 5-alarm fire, first one for the village of Holly.
Just brutal.
It was a very hot day, the hottest of the year.
It was over 100 degrees, and then you add 1,800 degrees in your face. It's hot.
We were struggling. We were losing time. We were losing firefighters with the heat. We transported approximately 5 firefighters to the hospital due to heat exhaustion.
As soon as people started dropping, you get that extra worry in your head, like, okay, we need to compensate. And we were on the worst corner of whole fire.
Soon, Sarah Trollman and her mother, Andy, rushed to the scene to find the entire building engulfed in flames.
It was very traumatic. We all kind of just sat here and watched it burn.
Coming up, firefighters are forced to make an agonizing decision.
We were trying so hard to stop everything from just being destroyed.
Had it got across that street, it would have spread through the downtown very quickly.
In June of 2022, a 5-alarm fire engulfed an historic building in downtown Holly, Michigan. Firefighters were battling fatigue and heat exhaustion, but they also faced another dilemma.
The winds were pushing the fire to the north. With this particular block being at our southeast corner, we knew that our exposures to the north were going to be affected.
Had it got across that street, it would have spread through the downtown very quickly, especially with the way the wind was going.
So we knew that with the resources on hand, that we had to make a stand at that point.
We were sitting on a corner with these flames, and we weren't going to let it jump the alley. I mean, it was dangerous, that's for certain.
Suddenly, the wind and their luck began to change.
You could hear and feel the wind shift. At that time, we knew we had an opportunity to save the north end of our town. We coordinated the blitz attack from Andy's place and the hotel at the same time. So while we had interior crews pushing the fire back out the building, we had aerial crews suppressing that backside as well. So we gave the fire nowhere to go.
Firefighters stopped the fire from destroying the downtown, but much of this historic building was devastated, including Andy's restaurant and our home upstairs.
I couldn't contain my emotions. It was just cried a river of tears because it was such a loss, not only to me, my family. I think the community was grieving with us.
Everybody was crying, everybody was hugging. It was a lot of pain. Everybody's heart was just hurting.
We were trying so hard to stop everything from just being destroyed. It was heart-wrenching.
Aside from the fire, the building suffered extensive water damage.
We used over 1 million gallons of water. We drained all 3 water towers down to the very bottom.
So whatever doesn't put out the fire, gravity takes it to its lowest level.
The fire took out the second story, all of the roof. The basement was flooded so badly, there was water over 6 feet high down there. It damaged a lot of the brick, the structural integrity.
Immediately after the fire, our sponsor, Belfour Property Restoration, was right there to help pick up the pieces. Not only did their subsidiary company, Blue Kangaroo Packouts, restore the damaged treasured documents from Moose Lodge next door, but Belfour was committed to getting Andy and her neighborhood gathering place back on their feet.
They gave me a lot of encouragement. They gave me a lot of good advice as far as what I should do, what are the possibilities.
Everybody you talk to would tell you how important Andy's was. This is like Holly in a nutshell. I mean, this is where the city came. This is where the people came. Belfour made a promise to Andy on that day that it's going to be back up and running, and you're going to be serving to the community of Holly in no time.
Now we rebuild. Now we bring it back bigger and better, and I trust that we'll be a family again.
While the fire was devastating, in the aftermath, a little bit of hidden history was revealed.
After everything got cleared out, it was like on the plaster, on the original plaster from 1866, there are recipes written. Over here is where we found recipes. It talks about having 3 cups of this and 3 eggs, and talks about a lemon pie. We might put them on the menu.
Absolutely, I would put that on the menu. If it's good, I'd have to try it first.
Andy and this tight-knit community will never forget the events of June 2022, but they'll always remember how brave firefighters put themselves on the line to save the village of Holly.
I can't believe they did what they did. They were so diligent in keeping that fire at bay. That's why the rest of the town is still here.
I love my job. I wouldn't say we're heroes. We just did our job. That's what we're here for.
Whether it's fighting a fire, saving a life, or even rescuing a trapped animal, first responders instinctively jump into any emergency.
Thanks to their training, dedication, and drive, these men and women are poised to do whatever it takes to get the job done.
We'll see you next time, right here on Hearts of Heroes.